9 million acres of forest, 1,700 miles of continuous shoreline, 4,300 lakes, 12,000 miles of streams, more than 300 waterfalls, 15 counties, 2 time zones, and 1 area code. Welcome to the Upper Peninsula. Welcome to 906 Outdoors. Food plots are much more than a growing bait pile. They can provide an important food source throughout the year for deer and other wildlife, particularly at times when they need it most. Their benefits stretch far beyond that of a place to shoot a deer. The number and quality of the deer you see, as well as when you see them, are all factors that should be considered when planning your plot. I met with John Komp of Northwoods Whitetails in Menominee to find out more.
Tonight we're going to talk about food plots. We're going to show you that it's not just about scratching up some dirt and throwing seed in the ground and hoping for the best. We're going to show you what we've created here in Upper Michigan. We've created a central feeding location for whitetails. We've got hidden access, getting in and getting out of your deer stands, so your hunting is undetectable. Your hunting gets better as the season gets longer. We'll show you how we've broken this food plot up into 2 separate food plots. We've taken a 15-acre field with the structure, knocked it down into a 3-acre hunting field. We've created the best nutrition on this whole section of land. And they know it, and they're here. They're eating. We've got green food from September all the way till next September. There's 20 different species planted out in this food plot. This is our destination food plot. Tonight we're going to talk about your main food plot. We're going to talk about kill plots, how to create kill plots, how to get in and out of your deer stands undetected. This is one of our examples, what we call a kill plot. It's 1/3 acre of our brassica mix. The deer come out of the swamps here. We've got a clover path right here we're standing on. There's deer bedding all through here. Here's where they stop to eat first before they head out to the big destination food plot. And those bigger bucks, they don't want to be out in that open area. So what they're going to do is they're going to come out, stand on the edges and feed here 15 minutes, maybe half hour before dark. Hence, we call it the kill plot. There's a deer stand right behind us. Easy access. We can get in and get out without knowing the deer even know we're here. And we're going to shoot down in this food plot, 80-yard shot versus hunting on the big 4-acre field. And you can see the deer trail here, worn down. This is designed to be this way. This is coming out of the swamp from the south. There's a lot of bedding down in here, hence the reason why we're not talking too loud. There's deer bedded nearby. They come out of the south, walk along this buffer strip, and they can stop and eat. So they can stand where I'm at right now, look over the big destination food plot and still feel secure. One of the very important things you have to keep in mind if you're going to sit on a food plot is that you have to have access into the deer stand and out of the deer stand without letting the deer know you're there, because once you bump the deer off the food plot 2 or 3 times, suddenly you've got nighttime movement instead of daylight movement. So you can see the deer stand back here on the back side of this milo and grain sorghum. We come in from the back door. This is our back door access, the screening cover and the topography. The deer down in that food plot or out on the main plot won't see us getting in or getting out. We have a nice clean raked trail right down to the bare dirt. There's no sticks, there's no leaves. We don't leave any scent behind us. We call that area behind it, it's a deerless area. The deer do not use that particular spot. So we can leave out the back door at dark or come in during the morning before daylight, get into that deer stand, the deer don't even know we're there. Obviously we hunt it on a west wind, which is prevailing winds. We can hunt it on a northwest wind. Okay, if we've got a south wind that blows our scent out into the food plot, we don't hunt that stand. But if you're going to hunt a food plot, you have to keep that food plot sacred. You cannot let the deer know you're hunting them, otherwise the food plot quickly becomes nocturnal. What we've got here is a mix of grain forage sorghum and some Egyptian wheat and some hybrid sorghum. I wanted a buffer strip between the deer stand and our kill plot of about 20 yards. The tops got knocked off, which saves me the work of going in there and clearing shooting lanes so we can see the food plot. So we've got just under a month before deer season. I'm sure we're going to get some more wind soon. It's planted so thick the deer do not want to walk through here, and it keeps them away from the deer stand so we can get in and out of that deer stand without being detected by deer. To make this food plot go from an acre opening down to a third of an acre, we put a buffer strip of our food plot screen right there, so the deer, they come out, they can't see along the back side of these spruce trees. We're creating a sense of security for these deer, and this particular food plot will have deer in it 2 hours before dark. The planting we have in this kill plot, it's got turnips, rutabagas, We've got some of our forage greens, forage brassicas, and you can see the deer on it pretty heavy. In 2 weeks' time, it went from 2 feet tall down to a foot tall. There's a little bit of rye coming back. We use that as a soil builder in the spring, but by and large, this is going to be very attractive, probably mid-November when rifle season starts, and then muzzleloader season, it's going to be very attractive. They're eating all greens right now. There's a lot of tubers in here, big bulbs. So there's a lot of food. There's literally tons of food in this 1/3 acre that the deer are going to have for the next 2 months. But we don't want them to spend the night here eating. This is just kind of a pit stop. We want them to end up at the destination plot to our north. So when they leave this food plot, we can get in and out of that rifle stand undetected. Now we're in what we call a destination food plot. This is a food plot that rather large, very diverse plantings. We've got 5 different strips of food. There's over 20 different species planted in these strips. And basically what we're creating is a spot that we want the deer to end up for their nighttime feeding, early evening feeding. We know where they're bedding. The hunting plot, the shooting plot's just off the side of this. This is where the deer on this 80 acres is going to end up every night. So what we've got is a strip of our brassica planting. It's got 8 different species. We've got a strip of what's called fall forage, plus radishes. There's different clovers in it. We've got another strip of brassicas and some rye. Right up against the wood line, we've got white clover and chicory. And then we've got an early season planting that was buckwheat, radishes, some soybeans that we planted in August. And there's rye and oats in there also. And basically what we're trying to create is there's not one thing planted. A, it's not good for the soil, and B, the deer are looking for diversity. We've got, like I said, 20 different species here. You can see they've knocked this grain planting down. Now they've started on our brassica planting. And there's going to be food here all the way up into March. So we're feeding the deer. We're building really good soil with diversity. Last year this brassica planting was here. This spring we came in and let the rye get about 4 feet tall. We mowed it down. We let the red clover come, and that fed the deer all summer. Then we tilled it with 1 pass of our tiller, and it produced a lot of organic matter as well as nitrogen for this brassica planting. And then this spring we came in where the brassicas were. We put in oats, an annual clover, some peas, and some rye. We tilled that under in August with 1 pass on our tiller and planted here, and we're basically flip-flopping this. We're building organic matter in our soil, which is very critical to having good food plots. And we're creating diversity, A, for the deer, B, for the soil. We don't have the same planting every year. Now what we're looking at here is a exactly half acre planting of our Sweet Feast brassica mix. We seeded it at 3 pounds an acre. One of the reasons I feel that this year it was so successful, it was 3 feet tall, solid green, very little purpling in the plants. We did a soil test prior to planting this particular brassica plot, and our fertilizer requirements were much different than what we needed in the past. So we used a real odd cocktail of fertilizers, and we've gotten, to me, the absolute best brassica planting I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not just saying it's because it's one that we did, but it's just, I've never seen a brassica planting this good. There's probably less than 1% purpling in the leaves. These are very healthy plants. This has been in the ground since late July. This isn't your everyday purple top turnip. This is just one of the large turnips that we use in this mix. We've got probably on this particular food plot 1.5 acres of this, and there's literally tons of forage in 1.5 acres. 3 weeks ago, these leaves were almost 3 feet tall, and the deer are just starting on the leaf part of these plantings, which is good because then once they get done with all this green, and it's going to take them a while to knock it down. Plus we still have clover and grains, rye, oats for them to eat. And we really want this. It's very nutritious for the deer, especially when those bucks are just entering the rut now, and they're going to need a lot of good food and good nutritious food, not just something green. There's all the nutrition these deer that are going to recover from the rut are going to need. That's going to equate to healthier deer this winter. They're going to enter the spring antler growing season in much better shape than if they were just eating sticks and berries and piles of corn. So, you know, there's a lot of reasons. A, it's a great food source for the deer and for us to hunt over, but it's going to be healthier for the deer herd. These food plots are. You look at the carnage that has started on this brassica. They're in here eating every night. And the really nice thing about this particular food plot, I haven't been in here in 3 weeks. Nobody's been in this field in 3 weeks. So, you know, if you compare that to a corn feeder, bait pile, and I'm not against baiting. Some places you just have no choice, but this food plot will have deer in it 2 hours before dark because they're undisturbed. Nobody's out here bugging them. There's no human scent out here. We're out here right now talking with our rubber boots on. We sprayed down. An hour from now, there's going to be deer out here. And if you're looking for that option other than baiting, or in addition to, we've got this food plot that's actually in about a 15-acre field. Now the deer only think this is an acre and a half. They're going to come out here well before dark, and there'll be a lot of deer out here. And they've been conditioned to come out here. Nobody bothers them. There's good food here, and there's a lot of does out here. And in the next 2 weeks, where the does are, that's where you're going to find the bucks. One of the things we like to do is we try to dictate deer movement. And we took the brush cutter, drove in as far as we could into the woods. And then we went back into the woods and created what we call a sidewalk for the deer. We cut some trees, let them fall each side for another 100 yards. So we know they come out right here. When we did sit on this food plot and observed, they all pile out right here. One of the things that with our food plot system that's a must is you have to hide the deer and hide your access. So now if you look out here, we're standing in the middle of about a 14 to 15 acre field. No self-respecting mature buck is going to come out here unless he's chasing a doe. But follow me, I'll show you what the deer see. This is what you want your food plots to look like right here. Secluded, well hidden. Our food plot screen had 3 feet of the top taken off because of some storms, but it's still standing. We've got structure on the side, we've got structure in the middle, we've got diversity, we've got 20 different species of plants growing here. This food plot's going to draw just about every deer within 80 acres because this is the best green food. They're not looking for corn right now, they're not looking for soybeans, they're looking for green food, and we've got plenty here. We've got plenty of food for when December rolls around. That's the environment you want to create. In this food plot screen, it's an annual that we have to plant every year. I mean, we've got switchgrass growing that's going to take 3 years to get that tall, and we can put trees in there. It's going to take 10 to 15 years to create this environment, but until then we can use this food plot screen, which is a hybrid sorghum and some Egyptian wheat, to create this structure for these deer. It kind of looks like it's fallen down, but keep in mind we had a blizzard and 50-mile-an-hour windstorms, and I can't break this. I mean, you bend it down, it's not going anywhere, it just pops right back up. It went from 12 to 14 feet down to anywhere from 10 to 8 feet, which is perfect because the deer is only 3.5 feet tall. If this wasn't here and this was just an open field, you might see them 20 minutes before dark and you'll see all the does and fawns. But now the bucks will come out an hour before dark because they've got a safe space, a wide open space. They can chase these deer, but yet they still feel secure because this structure's here. Again, another example of access to get to your deer stand if you're going to sit on your food plot. You can see there's the pop-up tent on the platform that we were looking at earlier, and the access to that tent is on the back side of that willow, and we hunt it with a north wind or a west wind, so we're leaving with the wind at our back, and we're sitting with the wind in our face. So at dark, when we climb down, we walk out of there, there's a bunch of deer out in that food plot. They have no idea we were there.
Today's Wild Game Break is brought to you by Cooking Wild Seasonings. Make it fresh, make it yours. Find out more at cookingwildseasonings.com. Right now is a great time to hunt turkey here in the UP. Here's some tips you might want to try for your fall hunt.
In the fall, people don't understand this, but we heard gobbles today and we heard all kinds of vocalizations. In the spring, you'll basically hear a lot of yelping and cutting and clucking from the hens and gobbling from the gobblers and the jakes. But it can run the gamut in the fall as well. Different methods of fall hunting include just sitting, not calling at all, calling sparingly, and one of the things you can do in the fall to take advantage of the way birds want to be in a flock is you break that flock up. You can run out, clap your hands, try to get the birds going in as many different directions as possible. And then what you do is you sit down at the assembly point where they were, and you try to call them back to you. You break wild turkeys up in the woods because you want to call them to the assembly point. And if the assembly point was the middle of a field, you are not going to be able to camouflage yourself from the turkeys coming in. There's all kinds of misconceptions about fall turkey hunting, but the great thing about it is just getting out in the woods and being here at one of the most beautiful times of the year.
Rapid River Knife Works is the largest custom knife factory showroom in Michigan. The 10,000 square foot showroom is awesome. Hunting knives, pocket knives, and kitchen knives. Watch your custom knife being made and engraved. Free laser engraving with your personal message or company logo. Lifetime warranty on every knife and free sharpening. Plus, visit Rapid River Knife Works gift shop for Stormy Cromer and RRK gear. Bring the family and visit Rapid River Knife Works today.
You wouldn't think of heading out on opening morning of deer season without knowing your rifle is dead on. But what about your shotgun? It's not something we sight in, but we certainly should know what to expect when we pull the trigger. I stopped in at the gun shop to get the scoop on patterning a shotgun.
There's a number of different ways of patterning your shotgun, some of them practical and a couple of them are very, very complicated and mathematically convoluted. Oberfell and Thompson is one of the complicated methods, and then the NRA method is also a very complicated one. With both of those patterning methods, you do your shooting all from 40 yards. And you're shooting at a main circle of 30 inches, and the percentage of shot that hits the target is then calculated and used to determine whether your shotgun is shooting a full choke pattern, a modified or an improved cylinder, or a cylinder pattern. And all of these complicated methods involve having to actually physically count how many shots hit or pieces of shot hit the target in whatever the area is that you're calculating. So there's a lot of counting and a lot of math involved. And there's a much easier way. There's a practical method for doing this process. With that method, you use a 30-inch main circle, just like the other one, but you vary the distance to the target. So at full choke, you do your shooting from 40 yards, just like they do with all of them for the complicated method. But then for modified, you go to 35 yards, for improved cylinder, 30 yards, and for cylinder bore, which is no choke at all, 25 yards. And what you're really looking for is your even shot distribution. You check your patterns and see how the particular one is that you used, but then you want to, just like you do for your rifle, selecting the particular load and bullet and so forth that is going to perform best for your rifle. You do the same thing with your shotgun, and you get a variety of them, and you try a variety of them, because no two are going to perform the same. Whether you're using Federal shells, Winchester, Estate, or Remington, it doesn't matter. They're all going to perform a little bit differently. And if you vary the shot size, that's going to be another variable. And then the other variable would be your dram equivalence of your shot charge. So what you want to do is select the one that gives you the best performance in your particular gun. I prefer to use a cardboard disc, and then I put my 30-inch core that I'm going to be using just by running a border on it, and then give myself an aim point for my shot. Okay, we've taken our shot from a prescribed distance. This particular distance happens to be 25 yards because I'm using a skeet tube, which is very close to a cylinder bore. Now we'll look at our target and see how this particular shell performed. We pretty well filled our 30-inch circle, and the pattern is fairly evenly distributed, but there are a few areas that are void of shot. When you're evaluating your target to know if the load is going to be a good one for that particular gun that you're shooting, you can just put your fists there for the voids and just put an X there or mark them if you wish, and then see how many voids you have in that pattern. This would have been a very thoroughly killing shot on most flying game. You notice on this particular target, it's a little heavier distribution of shot above the center line than it is below. And that's because most shotguns are set up so that your aim point being here, you would have your bird up in this position just sitting on your front bead. And so you want your shotgun to shoot up into this area more because that's the natural aim point that most shotguns are set up for. You notice in this pattern, they've done the 5-inch circles on it, and all of the 5-inch circles, there's a lot of them, which means that this particular pattern would not be a very effective pattern on game. So you better be shopping for a different shot shell. This one, much less voids in the core area, only partial one here. And if you notice the pattern, the major voids are down in the lower half of the quadrant on this. So this one would be a pretty adequate shell to use on game. So in summary, you can get as complicated or as basic as you want to. It is a good idea, if you want to be as effective in the field as possible, to go out and buy a few boxes of various shells to try. But it's interesting to know what your individual gun is going to do. And if that's the gun that you're going to stick with, you really should go to the effort of at least patterning it so that you know yourself how that gun is shooting.
It's a beautiful time of year to be in the woods. We'll leave you with a look at the colors of fall.